Listen up, jerkface. This video was brought to you by BullyMods.net. Modding tutorials, discussions, and releases. Now, unless you're a total phony, go and click on the links below. This is Jerry Rosenthal, voice of Jimmy Hopkins, and I approved this message.
Hopkins, you're quite the nastiest little boy I have ever encountered.
Okay, I'm frightened, and I've got a weak bladder.
Bully is a great game with a lot of features to look at, but with lots of features comes a whole lot of more features that were originally going to be in the game or were just scrapped immediately during development. Plenty of things were in the beta version of Bully, such as the 2-story boy storm. The slingshot cutscene took place inside of the school, and there was going to be a pizza parlor as well. One of the maps we will be looking at today is the mysterious beta map. This map was never meant to be featured as a solid map, just mainly for testing purposes. It featured several of objects on a flat surface with bad lighting, nothing special really. Props to Madman for supplying me with this nice find. There's not really a whole lot of things you can do in this map, so we'll be moving on. But aside from the various cut environmental content, one of the most popular beta content on YouTube are the beta fighting styles and characters. Due to the order in which changes were made during development is very blurry, I'll do my best to jump from point A to point B. And in order to begin this video properly, I'll be jumping right into the beta clique known as the Punks. From what we can tell, Russell was originally going to be a part of the Punks. As you can see, his skin was entirely different. Some of his beta moves were kept in-game and later reused for his boss fight in Chapter 1. In this version of Bully, Russell was going to be the leader of the Punks and have his own dog, the Doberman. The dog can still be found in the game files. Not a whole lot more is known about this version of Russell, so let's move on. Zoe Taylor originally had a very different appearance as well. It was more hardcore punk oriented and was drastically changed during development. Sid was a character that was originally going to be in the Punks as well. He was shorter than most students and dressed in the typical reddish fashion that most other Punks did. Sid was completely scrapped and his textures were reused for Omar. Eventually, the Punks were split up into two different cliques known as Townies and Bullies. The Townies were originally called Dropouts, but quickly renamed. Zoe and Omar were turned into Townies while Russell was turned into the leader of the Bullies. Not a whole lot more is known about the Punks, they're more or less a mystery at this point. Later in development, the Bullies amongst other students could have been seen in the blue sweater vest that Jimmy wore in the game. The nerds had a very similar development state where they too were dressed in typical red colors. Melvin was originally named Mole and had a very cartoony look. He was also referred to as the Nerd Director, meaning that he could have been the clique leader at the time. Fatty's original name was Francois and he had a pretty gross appearance. Later on in development, Fatty had a pretty different appearance as well, but that was altered yet again. Ernest had black long hair with orange glasses, as well as a nice bag. Algernon's name was Angus and his hair was pretty different. The zipper remained open up until the official release of the game. Lastly, Beatrice's original name was Amy. She looked sort of similar to her current version, but had a very different facial texture. For now, this is all we know about the nerds. But what about the school faculty? Well, there are lots of changes that were made during development. One of the most major differences would be the prefects. Max had a buzz cut, red nose, along with various of tattoos. Seth was overweight, had a buzz cut, rings, along with some mutton chops. And finally, Carl had what seems to be a watch. One of the things that all of these had in common was the baton that they were all equipped with. Rockstar more than likely changed this due to the fact that it might have seemed way too violent. Not even police officers are armed in the final version. Later on in development, prefects were given paddles instead of batons. This was changed as well, and they were eventually left completely unarmed. Edna had a very different appearance as well. She looked more cartoony and barely human, which really is saying something considering the fact that we're talking about Edna out of all people. Nurse Mrs. McRae was originally called Danica. She looked very much like a mixture of alien and goblin. Mr. Burton was originally named Neil. His face was very different, but a lot of his appearance traits were left in the official release. He was later renamed to Mr. Burton, and the name Neil was given to the shop class teacher. Fun fact, Neil cannot be found in free roam in the official release due to his strange dialogue about government conspiracies. Miss Danvers was originally named Miss Winston. She also had a very different appearance. Travel Snitch could have been seen patrolling the school at night. And whenever Jimmy failed a class, the camera would focus on the teacher and not Jimmy. The jocks also had a very different appearance. Already in early development, Kirby was giving a red football uniform. Louise also had a very different appearance. His hair was shorter and he looked a bit fatter than he does now. In the background you can see what looks like Bo along with another character named Bob, who I will discuss in just a minute. Oh, also Sheldon can be seen in a red uniform, close to a female student who is glitching out without animation. Good job, Rockstar. Damon also had a very different appearance as well. Bob is one of the beta leftovers that can still be found in the game files. He does appear briefly in the official release during the introduction for the mission The Gym is Burning. He is voiced by the same voice actor who voiced Jerry for some reason.
You're a pig! You ruined my life!
In the beta, Jimmy was supposed to wrestle against Fatty, Bob, and Bo, but eventually Rockstar decided to just go with Fatty. Both Bob's and Bo's wrestling appearances exist in the game files. Fun fact, his voice appears in a cutscene in GTA 4.
Bet. You ready to bounce? Well, come on then.
I am the best. I am number one. Whoa! Ow!
What did I do wrong in a past life?
Hey, check this out! Hey, there's a new kid. Wonder what his name is.
Please, nobody hurt me today.